I hate to be the guy that does those rant videos, but I just have to do it. I mean, if you're thinking about buying a Model X, take it from my experience, run away. I'm on day 7. They won't take my return back. I got my car on Christmas Eve, and I actually experienced problems immediately from delivery. As soon as I got in the car and drove away, started malfunctioning. I called my dealership in Manhasset. Manhasset Tesla told me that I needed to reset it. I did that. I let it sit for the night. I drove it the next day. Major issues. My autopilot was malfunctioning, swerving away from cars that were not there. It actually thought we got into an accident and bugged out. Nothing happened. There was nobody near me. My rear view camera stopped working. I found bubbles in my paint. That really pissed me off because, I mean, when you're buying a car that's, I ended up paying like $133K or something like that with all the charges. Like, how was there bubbles in the paint? Like, what is this? Like, Nissan Sentras for $15,000 don't have bubbles in the paint. I mean, it doesn't make any sense. And, aside from those issues, my windows are misaligned and they make a really terrible whistling sound. There's the problem with the battery life. I get under 100 miles on a 90% charge. And I keep telling them, all these problems need to be fixed. The holiday passes, they send me into service. They tell me that the car was delivered with the wrong firmware. And when it updated, it went backwards instead of forwards to an older version. And I said, well, wouldn't that mess the car up? And he said, well, if the car's messed up in any way, you should return it. And I said, okay, well, he updated the software for me. I left. Most of the problems went away, but what didn't go away was the bad rear view camera. The bubbles in the paint, obviously, is not a firmware issue. They told me I'm stuck with that. And my battery life is terrible. I mean, it's not even a third of what it should be. Well, it's about a third of what it should be. So it's off by like 65%, which is ridiculous. And that's not driving in ludicrous mode, speeding. That's in chill mode, just driving on the highway. It's that bad. And, I brought it up to the dealership many times and I was really upset. And, I was like, guys, can you please take the car back? It's defective. The autopilot is dangerous. It didn't work. And they're like, well, that's fixed now and this and that. And I said, well, I still have paint bubbles and I still have a car that has 95 miles to a charge. Like, I can't live with that. I feel like I work for Tesla. Every day I'm on the phone with you guys trying to fix things, and the mileage is impossible to use. Like, even to go get groceries, like, you can't live with that. And they told me, well, you can't return the car. We're not letting you return the car. And I said, but that's unfair. I didn't even test drive it. Like, how could I be stuck with the car? And they said, well, in New York, there's a $500 incentive that we emailed you about. And I said, stop right there. What are you talking about? And they said, oh, well, there's the email the day before you get the car, and it says you can opt in for it or opt out if you want to keep your return period. And I said, well, I'm looking through my email right now. I don't see it. And they said, well, let me check. And they're like, oh, we apologize. We didn't send you that email. We weren't able to because you picked up the car the day that we got it. And I said, that's not my problem. And they said, well, you have to keep the car. So I'm just letting everybody know out there, it's not a good decision to buy one of these cars. I'm stuck with mine with 1/3 of the battery life, bubbles in my paint, and no rear view camera still. And it's just not fun to spend, this kind of money on a car. I mean, we're talking like Bentley prices. I spent over $130K for a car that does not have 1/3 of the battery life, or has 1/3 of that battery life, bubbles in the paint again, and it has a rear view camera that just goes black, like, doesn't work. So I don't think it's worth the money, and I'm really upset with the quality overall. I mean, I don't even open my window if I have to, just so I don't have to hear the nails on the chalkboard, like, who wants to hear that? So, if you're looking to buy a Tesla, think again. I really don't suggest it. You can contact me if you need specific info on any of the problems. Yeah, man, I mean, it's a terrible situation. Oh, She probably feels bad for me that I got screwed so bad. Stop it, Sonia.